I'd like to discuss a little bit about what Muslims believe about Muhammad. Why do they believe that he's a prophet? Well, just to give you a little timeline concerning the history of Muhammad, according to Islamic chronology, Muhammad was born in the year 570 AD. His father died before his birth, and his mother raised him until she also died when he was 6 years old. So Muhammad was orphaned at the age of 6. His grandfather then took him in, and then his grandfather died when Muhammad was 8. And then from there, his paternal uncle raised him as his own son. Muhammad began his prophetic ministry, his prophetic career, at the age of 40 in the year 610 AD, when in meditation in Hira Mountains, and now this is located in Saudi Arabia. The Hira Mountains is next to Mecca, where Muhammad was born and reared. He went there to meditate and fast. And during this period of fasting, Gabriel supposedly appeared to him. In fact, I want to read a tradition that recounts Muhammad's first encounter with the Spirit, whom he claimed was Gabriel. This comes from the most authentic collection of narrations or traditions attributed to Muhammad, known as the Hadith literature. Hadith. The term Hadith means narration, report, or story. And here, I'm going to be reading, or Lee will be reading, from the most authentic collection of Hadith called Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari, the most authentic collection of narrations according to Sunni Muslims, who are the majority of Muslims worldwide. Volume 1, number 3. Volume 1, number 3.
The mother of the faithful believers, the commencement of the divine inspiration to Allah's apostle, was in the form of good dreams, which came true like bright day, and then the love of seclusion was bestowed upon him. He used to go in seclusion in the cave of Hira.
Hira Caves, which is located in Saudi Arabia, near Mecca, where Muhammad was born and reared,
where he used to worship Allah alone, continuously for many days, before his desire to see his family. He used to take with him the journey for food to stay and then come back to his wife Khadijah to take his food likewise again, till suddenly the truth descended upon him while he was in the cave of Hira.
Side note, Khadijah was Muhammad's first wife, who was 15 years his senior. She was a wealthy merchant who at the time when she hired Muhammad to work for her caravans was a widow. Muhammad married her when he was 25 and she was 40 years of age. So she was a wealthy woman who was quite influential and instrumental in the life of Muhammad. So this experience happened during the time where Muhammad was a monogamist. He still had one wife who was supporting his expeditions because she was the one with the wealth. Continue, my brother.
The angel came to him and asked him to read. The prophet replied, I do not know how to read.
According to Islamic tradition, Muhammad was an illiterate, ummi. He could neither read nor write, which further solidifies the miraculous nature of the Quran, or so the Muslims think. After all, how can an illiterate man produce an Arabic masterpiece the size of the Quran? So here, if you note what the tradition says, this angel asked Muhammad to read, and Muhammad responded and said, I do not know how to read, because he's illiterate. Proof of his prophethood, so the Muslims think.
The prophet added, the angel caught me forcefully and pressed me so hard that I could not bear it anymore.
Did you note how violent the spirit was towards Muhammad? He pressed Muhammad so hard that Muhammad felt that he was going to die. So this spirit was quite violent with Muhammad. Unlike the experiences of the prophets before Muhammad, if you read the scriptures, at no time will you find God or the Holy Spirit or an angel tormenting the messengers that God has commissioned to go forth and proclaim the truth of God. Yet here, this spirit who's supposed to be Gabriel physically torments and manhandles Muhammad. Continue.
He then released me and asked me again to read, and I replied, I do not know how to read. Thereupon he caught me again and pressed me a second time.
So again he presses him violently, physically. Second time. Second time Muhammad says, I don't know how to read. You would think that by this time the spirit would get it. right? But he doesn't, and he then again squeezes Muhammad quite violently, causing him to be afraid for his life.
He then released me again and asked me to read, but again I replied, I do not know how to read, or what shall I read? Thereupon he caught me for a third time and pressed me.
So a third time he presses him violently. Wow.
And then released me and said, read in the name of your Lord, who has created all that exists, has created from man from a clot. Read, and your Lord is the most generous.
Now, before my brother continues, it's important to note that these are the first verses of the Quran being given to Muhammad by the Spirit Messenger. What this Spirit Messenger recited are the verses found in chapter 96 of the Quran, verses 1 to 5. Chapter 96, verses 1 to 5. These are the verses that this Spirit recites to Muhammad, beginning his prophetic ministry and beginning the revelations of the Quran. Now, what happens after Muhammad recites these verses? Note, the Spirit recites the verses, Muhammad repeats them. What happens after that point, according to Muhammad's own testimony?
Then Allah's apostle returned with the inspiration and with his heart beating severely. Then he went to Khadija bint Khuwailid.
Khadija bint Khuwailid. I know these Arabic terms are hard for us Westerners, yes.
And said, cover me, cover me. They covered him till his fear was over. And after that he told her everything that had happened and said, I fear that something may happen to me.
Now before my brother moves on, according to another narration, Muhammad actually said, I am afraid that I'm demon possessed. The Arabic term, majnoon, right? Something happened to me specifically. I believe I'm possessed by a jinn. The word majnoon means jinn possessed or demon possessed. So Muhammad's initial reaction was that I'm possessed by an evil spirit. Very important to note, because if you compare his experience and his encounter with the Spirit with the prophet's experience with God or his Spirit or his angels in the Holy Bible, you'll never find any prophet or messenger thinking that the entity they encountered was a devil or a demon who came to possess them. You'll never find that in the Holy Bible. In fact, what you find in the Holy Scriptures is God's messengers being comforted by these spirit angels, right? These angelic messengers comforting them. For example, when Daniel encounters Gabriel and he's afraid, Gabriel tells him, do not be afraid. Or when Gabriel appears to Zechariah in Luke 1, he tells him, do not be afraid. Same thing he tells Mary in the same chapter. So God's true messengers are comforted by these spirits sent by God to reveal to them God's will. Unlike Muhammad, whose spirit tormented him, leading him to think he was demon-possessed. Now what happens after that? What does Khadija do?
Khadija replied, never by Allah. Allah will never disgrace you. You keep good relations with your kith and kin, help the poor and the destitute, serve your guests generously, and assist the deserving, calamity-afflicted ones. Khadija then accompanied her cousin, Waraq bin Nafal bin Asad bin Abdul Uzza, who during the pre-Islamic period became a Christian and who used to write the writing with Hebrew letters. He would write from the gospel in Hebrew as much as Allah wished him to write.
Now let me explain a little bit about this character named Waraqah ibn Nawfal. Waraqah ibn Nawfal was Muhammad's first wife's first cousin. Khadija and Waraqah were related, they were cousins. Waraqah, before the time of Islam, had converted to Christianity. This is what the narration is saying. The narrative is saying that Waraqah, who was Khadija's cousin, had become a Christian and used to write the gospel in Arabic and Hebrew. So he had a gospel that he read in Arabic and in Hebrew and would write it in Arabic and Hebrew. So now, in order to comfort Muhammad, Khadija takes Muhammad, her husband, to Waraqah, a Christian monk who had converted to Christianity long before Muhammad claimed to be a prophet, to see what his advice would be concerning who the spirit was that came to Muhammad. So now she arrives to Waraqah, and she has Muhammad tell Waraqah about his encounter with the spirit being, and here's Waraqah's response. This is what he says. Continue.
He was an old man and had lost his eyesight. Khadija said to Waraqah, listen to the story of your nephew, O my cousin. Waraqah asked, O my nephew, what have you seen? Allah's apostle described whatever he had seen. Waraqah said, this is the same one who keeps the secrets, Angel Gabriel, whom Allah has sent to Moses.
Did you see his response? According to the Christian monk, the spirit that Muhammad encountered is the same angel, the same spirit that God sent to Moses. I don't want the Christians to ignore the impact of the statement. If this narration is true, that means a Christian started Islam. I'll repeat it again. If this is a true narrative recounting actual history, that means Muhammad was convinced that he wasn't demon-possessed, but that the same messenger that came to Moses had now appeared to him by a Christian monk, no less. A Christian monk started Muhammad on his prophetic journey, spawning upon us this religion that has become a thorn in the side of the church for over 1,400 years. This is what the narration says. Now continue into the end of the narration.
I wish I were young and could live up to the time when your people would turn you out. Allah's apostle asked, why will they drive me out? Waraka replied in the affirmative and said, anyone who came with something similar to what you have brought was treated with hostility. And if I should remain alive till the day when you will be turned out, then I would support you strongly. But after a few days, Waraka died, and the divine inspiration was also paused for a while.
Now that makes you wonder, on what basis could Waraka say that this spirit is the same entity that came to Moses when he didn't even hear the content of the revelation? Note what the narrative says. Several days after this encounter Muhammad had with the spirit, Waraka died, which means that he never had the chance to hear what the message of the Quran was. Well, if he never heard it, how then could he be assured, how could he know for certain that this is the same spirit that came to Moses, which God had now sent to Muhammad? After all, doesn't our scripture say, test the spirits, beloved? Right? Not every spirit is from God. Well, then how did he know that this spirit was from God, seeing that he didn't know what the revelation the spirit brought to Muhammad contained? What the message the spirit had concerning Jesus, his gospel, his death on the cross, his subsequent resurrection, and the nature and attributes of God. He didn't know anything that the Spirit had to say concerning these issues. So how could he be so confident this was a spirit from God? Well, with that said, be that as it may, history being what it is, Muhammad became convinced, but still had some doubts. Although Waraka told him, the spirit that had come to you is the spirit that came to Moses, he still had some doubts, because after that, the revelations, the so-called revelations, stopped coming for a period of time, which led Muhammad to contemplate suicide. Because the revelations didn't come for a period of time, Muhammad thought really that he was demon-possessed and contemplated suicide. This is what the narration goes on to say. Continue.
Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari, while talking about the period of pause in revelation.
Period of pause in revelation.
Reporting the speech of the prophet, while I was walking, all of a sudden, I heard a voice from the sky. I looked up and saw the same angel who had visited me at the cave of Hira sitting on a chair between the sky and the earth. I got afraid of him and came back home and said, wrap me in blankets.
Again, he's horrified by what he's seeing. Note, instead of the Spirit comforting him, Muhammad is horrified by these encounters he has with the Spirit. Now, to add a little details to this narrative, when it says that the revelation paused for a certain period of time, what you don't read here, but you'll read elsewhere in the hadith literature, is that this caused Muhammad to go to the top of the mountains and to fling himself off the mountains to commit suicide. Every time he tried to do that, the Spirit would appear. This is what the narrative is implying. That when he wanted to do it, the Spirit would appear and tell him, you are the messenger of God, I am Gabriel. And he'd come back just shaking and trembling with fear. So this is Muhammad's introduction to the spirit realm, and this is what started his prophetic ministry.